the draft lower third coming up fairly soon, so we can see what we're going to be playing with.
And there we have it right here, the draft order and all. Let's take it in.
Yeah, so first pick, Senna from Golden Guardians, and actually matched the Seraphine from TSM. So that's what COG pioneered here in the LCS. But you're seeing Senna get through more and more because Seraphine has been a big counterpick to it. So it looks like TSM's got the Seraphine Karma bot lane, Yasuo Gnar. Not sure if that's going to be mid-top because that can swap back and forth. But it's also a Mundo, likely Senna Mundo for Golden Guardians. So we missed a pretty spicy draft, but
I know, right?
It'll be a cool game.
Already a switch up from what we've been seeing. I mean, when Sven was on the desk yesterday, he was talking about how bot lane, for instance, is so led by the AD carry, and a lot of times you're just picking the support that's kind of going hand in hand, but we're seeing a difference this time around. Yeah,
and so many bot lane bans, as has been happening a bunch of times. Biofrost remarked on that yesterday, where he said all the spicy, like the nice spice bot lane picks are banned away here. Zeri, Lucian, Ezreal, and Kalista have all been banned. So you're left with the salt and pepper. But honestly, this is still different to me, Senna Seraphine, and really kind of enables the rest of your team to be big-time damage dealers.
The Seraphine really coming through nicely for CLG in week 1 and now making that appearance on other squads, because we've heard many players talk in their interviews about the power that she holds, especially when enabled in a team.
Yeah, and we'll see as we get into game for TSM who's playing the Yasuo and also who's playing the Seraphine between Tactical and Mia. And I think this is the correct choice kind of all around, with Tactical being on the Seraphine and Maple being on the Yasuo.
All right, we're getting into it. Golden Guardians versus TSM. Golden Guardians are definitely trying to prove that they are a threat within this split, but wanting to find their angle. TSM fans starting to rejoice in the audience because they upset one of the previously undefeated teams yesterday in Team Liquid and probably have a decent amount of confidence coming into this one.
Yeah, and I think that win, you got to talk to Tactical afterwards. He was, I think, controlling his emotions a little bit, but I think it's very important that he was able to get his first win there against Team Liquid. Also got the first blood in that matchup, so big start, big finish for him, and TSM definitely wants to build on that momentum of beating Team Liquid, because it was such a ridiculously grim spring split for TSM, spending most of it in last place, finishing with a 5-13 record, and then making 2 roster changes in mid and support. So if they can build on that win against Team Liquid and move into a 3-2 record, which would put them in the top half of the standings stolidly, it would mean a lot to them and I think the fan base.
It feels that those switches in the roster have left everyone feeling pretty renewed. Spica having a lot of life in his interviews when speaking specifically about Maple. We saw what Mia was able to do all the way across. The top lane is where Licorice has seen a lot of action throughout the weekend previously, going and throwing it down with Someday in the top lane versus 100 Thieves. And now here with Huni. And the Fiora specifically, we have seen from Licorice already in the past willing to bring it through.
Yeah, and we know Licorice is a type of player who's willing to play a very volatile lane matchup and also has the green light from his coaching staff to do so. There's one game that actually pops into my memory from Spring Split where Licorice played against Summit, who was the Spring Split MVP. Very narrowly missed out on a solo kill early on, but then went like 0-5. Afterwards. But afterwards, an arrow said, hey, he saw the angle, he went for it, he didn't quite execute, but that's the type of aggression we want to see. So I expect him to be making the same type of aggressive plays as Fiora against Huni's Gnar.
It makes sense, a player that was brought in as a veteran looking to be leader of the team and being enabled by the staff to play the way that he wants to play. But while we have seen him on this pick before, you know that he's going to try to harass and really get those advantages in the top lane. But Gnar, always seen by top laners, just a test that you want to be able to position yourself for later on in the team fights.
Yeah, he actually has the wave in a really good spot right now, as well as winning those trades. He's going to start pushing back towards him, and both junglers are pathing topside. So decently high chance of conflict fairly soon as he continues to chunk Huni out.
And Spica being in the vicinity, as you just mentioned, both of the junglers here. So even though Huni's a bit low on HP and trying to reach the wave to the best of his ability, has some of that safety if he needed additional assistance.
Yeah, Licorice is pushing now. I feel like he had the ability to let it push into him and freeze a little bit, but instead, I feel like Huni's actually kind of getting out of this scot-free, as he will just end up losing his teleport, but doesn't lose that many minions. Also, just to note, these players are CSing. Unfortunately, the scoreboard is currently bugged, but they'll be able to fix that shortly. There it is.
Hey!
He's up by 5 CS in the top lane.
There we go. You have all the information you need now. But yes, choosing to push that wave in, but Huni still able to pick up as much as he could upon returning through that teleport. Here down on the bot side, we mentioned it a little bit when we saw the draft. So Olleh coming through with Dr. Mundo. What do you make of this choice? Spica's also hovering around.
I mean, it's going to be a tough laning phase. I think the question later will be, can he become relatively unkillable because he's able to get farm? But by no means do I think they're going to be able to win this lane. The poke and the double range from Tactical and Mia is going to keep them pushed in for most of it. And it looks like Spica's going to try. She's going to think about a dive, but there's no way this one works. She's actually got to worry about getting caught by Pridestalker here.
Pridestalker coming on through. Olleh still continually chunked down. Spica is caught out. He just decides to retreat to the rest of his team, even though he's locked down here by Stixxay. Doesn't matter, gets away scot-free.
Jeez, but look at that poke Olleh continues to take. Does have a Dorn shield that'll keep him up. So a little bit of lost time there for Spica. Like the idea of going for the Krugs, but all of them did go over to Pridestalker. Oh,
Tactical and Mia both a bit more ahead in XP here when you're looking at that compared to Olleh wanting to get some kind of harass. But the damage rate now, that is what you have to worry about when you're getting continuously poked down, and Stixxay can't find any safety. No one to really be able to blockade him.
Yeah, I mean, part of why we're seeing Seraphine more now as a Senna counter pick, if you've been practicing enough Seraphine to play it well. I know Tactical has actually put a lot of games on Seraphine. One of the players that's in bot lane that's actually quite flexible. He played a lot of Ziggs last summer split as well. Played some Cassiopeia in bottom lane as well in early 2021. So pretty good mage player in his own right as well.
It's one of those things that's been really fun to watch in his development of a player, because he hasn't been around that long, but the longer you are within the scene, the more you can show that flexibility, because as you're growing, you're starting to expand the pool through different metas, and a lot of times those things will shift back in. It's something that Bjergsen has talked about a lot, where, oh, I've played for so long, it's not that I have a mastery of all of these champs because I'm always practicing, but because I've played through every single meta that has existed during that time.
It's actually a very interesting discussion, because some of the older players can't pick up new champions because they're so set in what they're doing. Think about Reckless retiring in 2018 because mages were in the bottom lane would be a prime example of that. But Tactical is definitely one of those players that is willing to play a lot of different stuff.
And continuing to do so at that. But even though we saw some early attempts at action with Spica going for that setup of the dive down bot was answered by Pridestalker's presence, we haven't necessarily gotten a lot of that early skirmishing that we saw in some of the games yesterday.
Yeah, TSM has played quite up-tempo, but nothing happening in this early game. Part of that, I think, is because Spica's move into the bottom lane was matched right away by Pridestalker and didn't leave a window for anyone to gank. But the second thing is the lanes are actually just playing in a pretty non-volatile way so far in this game.
The most danger is really over on this bot side because of that range matchup. Tactical and Mia taking full advantage. Even right now, looking to circle. Can I land a Q here on Karma? Can I get a little extra something before returning to the lane?
Definitely with the teleport on the Mundo, was able to just kind of brush off a huge amount of the poke that he took early. So only about 12 CS down so far in that lane. It's a pretty even game overall.
And all the while, some ultimates are finally coming into the table, so something to consider with the junglers clearing out as much as possible. Spica just remaining in his for now, has a few camps that he can go through if he so desires. Control wards in the advantage of Golden Guardians along this riverside.
This is going to be an interesting game to watch progress, because when we look at the strengths and weaknesses of both of these teams, it has traditionally been early game power, but then a suboptimal ability to close out the game. And with it being so close, one Drake over to TSM gives them a slight advantage, but that by no means signals that they have this game in hand.
That's a very good point, because for Golden Guardians, that was this story pretty much the entirety of spring. A lot of belief in the potential of these players. You see them acquire early leads, but can they close out when some of that decision-making became a bit more unclear in the latter portions? And even yesterday, we saw them willing to scrap against 100 Thieves, but then unfortunately, around the Dragon Pit, for instance, just a turn that didn't work out for them, and then from there, couldn't really scrap back in the way that they wanted to.
Yeah, and if we look at how much playmaking each team composition has, there's not a lot of playmaking on Golden Guardians. They have slows, which maybe they can run tactical down with.
They do get his flash, but under the turret now even throws out the ultimate to try to get something, but that's first blood for Golden Guardians. All on the top side, though. Licorice getting targeted by
Pridestalker's here.
And Spica is here as well, though. Pridestalker going in, zips in with the winds, becomes lightning. Gets an ultimate all the way across the board. AblazeOlive is followed by Mia, too. So even on that, has to return to the opposite side, can't join the rest of the team. But that's 3 kills that just happened in a very short instance.
Absolutely, and Licorice bought so much time for Pridestalker and Stixxay's Senna ultimate to arrive. He procced all 4 of his ultimate size to get the healing fountain on top of himself. And before that play, I think just a big mistake by Tactical, dying while being isolated in that lane to give Golden Guardians a slight edge so far.
A bit of the reaction there too, using some resources, the flash and the ultimate, so that will be on cooldown for some time here. But
Good
the Herald is here for Golden Guardians to pick up. This is known information to TSM, and they have multiple within the vicinity, but no real reason that they see to contest this at the present time, being everything that just went down prior.
Definitely a good start for Golden Guardians. This is more reminiscent of the way they jumped out to an early lead in many of their spring split games. Good early lane movements. You can see how Stixxay was rotating straight out of the base to that Rift Herald. And then they were also the team most likely to get first turret, but you can't get caught like that!
They knew that they were there! Maple going in, gets exhausted, but Stixxay falls. Golden Guardians, they were aware of the intel, but still lose 1.
Yeah, many people missing for TSM there. Olleh would have needed to scout that with a cleaver, or they just take the safer route. Unfortunately, they do not.
Licorice blasted against the wall for a moment's time, but nothing else to follow from here. But that was a great chance for TSM to be able to even things out, slow the momentum that Golden Guardians were really starting to build. They do still have that Rift Herald that they picked up previously with plenty of plates to take.
Yeah, going back to how Tactical got caught out here, Olleh just walks up to him, basically undodgeable cleaver range, lands a couple cleavers in a row, takes him down. And then this is the one where TSM is trying to make a return because Licorice is trying to crash this wave desperately before recalling. Gets in range of the Gnar ultimate as Spica arrives, and they're really just dumping as much damage as possible. You notice how the heal procs right there for Licorice as Senna ult comes through. Actually very close to being able to get a double kill if Spica can't get that ultimate to land right at the end. This nearly makes it a 2-for-0. This is a different replay. This is Senna getting ulted by Yasuo. Goodbye.
The transition was too smooth.
Well, I thought they were just going to show the long-range Senna cannon that nearly clutched it out, but it was actually just Senna dying.
Yeah, unfortunate moment for Senna there, but previously did have an impact when you're referring to the ultimate and how that was so helpful for Golden Guardians on this top side. But returning to the action, AblazeOlive is making that movement towards the bot side, decides against it for now. Still was able to get some warding though deep. Trading over your top, Licorice going low, flashes forward. The grand challenge has been activated, but a flash away from Huni. Spica forward for it. Stixxay finishing off. Gnar put him into bed. Spica jumping to the opposite side.
He's
Licorice
out.
with the fast feet over the wall. He goes and is safe.
That is playing on limits. Licorice goes for it. Wouldn't have had the solo kill for himself, but they have the global presence of the Senna, and then very fancy feat at the end to not only get Spica's flash and ult, but not give him anything in return.
And following immediately after that Licorice Fiora Pog moment, AblazeOlive getting the attention of the Rift Herald in mid, able to knock off a few of those plates, so extending those advantages. Stixxay, a veteran player, always using that map awareness to have an impact.
Definitely needing to watch that, but lands the slow and the attack speed slow, crucially from that W, so Huni's not able to immediately return that much damage. Licorice needs to flash to be able to proc that final vital. And then here, look at how much healing that was as he was walking back over his ultimate. And then switches directions to Spica in the air. Makes it look easy.
It has the same, I mean, I'm only thinking of this because Dr. Mundo's in it, and I'm just thinking of Mundo dodgeball in the pit.
Okay.
And I feel like Tactical is thinking maybe I should be working on that a little bit going into this lane, and then Liquor saying, I like to move around a bit, just dodging in a different way here.
And also during the longer replay we showed, Golden Guardians picked up a Drake, so definitely keeping this game very even. The overall Corki poke is normally extremely powerful. I'm curious how that's going to work with Seraphine and Karma shielding and healing coming through. Tactical has gone for the Leandries for a little bit more damage. Of course, that's going to reduce their overall healing output, as Mia looks like he's going for the healing reduction enchant item before his mythic.
Mia now hovering over on this mid side. Golden Guardians bot lane coming through to move together as a unit. But still quite a bit of time until those next global objectives come on through. So returning to lane, AblazeOlive has had a lot of time to farm up though, and just in this matchup, which is why so ahead in gold, able to get that build that much closer to completion.
Yeah, and this is the complexion that many of the games have taken so far in Summer Split, where with durability up, early game action is down, but that doesn't mean you don't get big explosive team fights later. It's probably quite different from the scrim meta, where these games are still probably quite explosive as players are testing limits, but it's just, with durability, so much easier to keep the game even when you're on stage.
It does mean you have to be wary of when those spikes do come later for that, because, I mean, we saw in that last game yesterday, for instance, right, between CLG and FlyQuest, where CLG had a lot of leads, and then once Twitch had multiple items on, FlyQuest were able to turn things around, big old damage, and get the victory. So even though things feel slower, and that is kind of a chance to just keep your mind going, you have to make sure that you're still very, very focused until the end and wary of those spikes.
Yeah, I don't think this game has quite the ticking time bomb that Twitch Yumi is, but I would say the Corki has tremendous late game scaling. Fiora has very good 1v1 late game scaling, but I've still kind of yet to see in LCS this kind of late game Fiora taking over. Inevitably with Dragon Soul and Elder Dragon and Barons, the Fiora has to group, and I think it's going to be relatively difficult for Licorice to team fight well later on in this game. So I'll be very interested to see how the late game team fights do end up playing out in this one.
Especially when you look at the way a lot of these ultimates work. If you're finding a lot of jungle fights, Seraphine, for instance, very much likes to just collide between that territory to really funnel Golden Guardians where they want to go. Right now, though,
well, we got a fight.
TSM is on the Rift Herald.
Give it up.
And Golden Guardians decide not to go for it. So that's a trade. The first Rift Herald, Golden Guardians were able to drop mid. Now TSM picking it up. Spica's got it in his pocket.
Yeah, I really do wonder about this Herald pickup for them, though, because they're giving basically a free turret to Licorice down bottom. All second Herald does is helps you break a turret. So they give up a wave and a turret in order to pick up the Herald. Doesn't seem like a very ideal trade.
But in the end, Golden Guardians up 2,000 gold right now in their FPX gold lead. Turret goes down. Licorice having a lot of time to be able to push that on that bot side with the flip that they did. And now Huni returning down here as well. So starting to break things open, and as soon as you take that first turret, that does open up a lot of movement for your team in the way they can start establishing vision. TSM did take a lot of time to establish exactly that around this dragon, finally coming up so they can stack this for their seconds.
Down in gold, but up in dragons, and just completed their mythics, which actually makes them pretty much the same in terms of combat power.
Spica just wanting to get a little intel here. Pridestalker, Stixxay, and Olleh making sure they don't run into too much trouble. Grab a root here onto Spica, but he can escape with ease. We're at that point too where just on both sides of this, a lot of the teams are moving collectively. They don't want anybody to get caught out in this position. Just leave your top laner to go push wherever you want him to go, and it'll just be matched. But right now, the movement coming over towards this mid side. Tactical, pretty chunked down. Rift Herald here, able to crash into the tower. A couple members of Golden Guardians and Licorice is coming through from the river side, but they give over this tower and they're able to prevent the second charge.
Yeah, good brute force tower there. TSM now 1 turret to Golden Guardians 2, but they have the more important turret to take down in the mid lane, which makes it relatively even. I think it's interesting that the teams are playing this way when there is so much potential for, I guess, side lane action to happen when you got a Yasuo and a Fiora on opposite sides of the map. But with what we talked about on the analyst desk before this game, in Spring Split, this was the worst and second worst team in terms of isolated deaths, which is a stat that accumulates how often a player dies when they are not in range of any of their teammates. So it has been a big problem for both of these teams, essentially just getting picked off alone. They're not leaving much opportunity for that to happen in this game. I'd almost say they're slightly over-grouping. It's going to happen somewhat naturally when you have a Seraphine Karma team. They're going to want to stay together. But for instance, Huni and Maple are very passive in the side lanes. If you look at how far they are generally pushing up, which is giving Golden Guardians a lot of map control, giving them first access to a lot of these waves, and helping to increase their gold advantage.
That is one of the things that's very just unique about this matchup, because they're both so hyper aware of that specific aspect, making sure that they don't give over those isolated deaths. Very mirrored in their movement as a result, where even if there are opportunities for them to take skirmishes, just making sure to back away from them. We get a little bit of contact here. Olleh making the wrap around. Mia has to flash into the red buff pit. Nobody follows.
Yeah, Olleh's gonna possibly have some really powerful feeling moments in this game, because if he ever runs into what is traditionally like the mid lane squad would be the bot lane plus the jungler, in this case it's Seraphine, Karma, Volibear, they can't ever kill him with just those three. They need to have Yasuo or Gnar, which in a normal team comp you would have an AD carry in that spot to be able to shred through the Mundo. TSM doesn't have that. Situations like this are where Olleh would be at more risk, but is able to avoid that knockup and maybe turn it around to Spica.
Pridestalker was there in pursuit, but Spica does escape, and you do have Olleh on this Mundo, so kind of treating in that way where, yes, the support position, but can position in the lanes when you have things opened up. And yeah, exactly as you were saying, it'll be very difficult to kill him later on. You've got the Frostfire Gauntlet already, the Bramble Vest to also try and punish some of the healing on the opposite side. So with this build getting more and more online, becoming that much more durable, everyone's favorite word.
Yeah. Durability.
Durable. That's kind of a hard word to say really fast, back to back, actually. Durable. Yeah. I'll stop trying that.
I'd say as well, Huni and Maple need to really get damage quickly, otherwise there will not be a way to kill this Mundo. So again, it's a slow game because Golden Guardians doesn't necessarily have that much playmaking, but the press R and run at them will be relatively effective at the next dragon fight because of the current lack of having 2 completed damage items by Huni or Maple, and the fact that Olleh does have 2 completed tank items.
Right now they're warming up. They're doing like 50-meter sprints. I don't actually know the breaking points for length in runs. That's probably more of a dash question, but I'm like, well, you know, then later they'll be willing to go all the way the distance, 1,000 miles down the stretch to chase after TSM. Not yet, though.
17 seconds, and because like Golden Guardians gets first access to mid-wave because they have Mundo, who can't necessarily be killed, and then because they have mid-prowl, they're able to get those side waves pushed in so frequently. So it's just really difficult for TSM to access any of these objectives. I think they need 100% crit on Yasuo and at least a second damage item on Gnar before they can even consider this. So a uncontested Drake for Golden Guardians based on the current state of the game.
And it feels like TSM are trying to figure out what they want to do with this time. If they're allowing Golden Guardians to take this Drake because they can't break their way into it, is there somewhere else that they can create an advantage on this map? We're at 22 minutes, so you're past Heralds, obviously. Baron, it's a little too early to be doing something like that. So instead, just get a bit more of the clearing over in that mid wave and start pushing over on that top side. They even out the turret score as a result.
And something that's going to be interesting in this one is how TSM can play from this deficit. In spring, you'd say this game would probably be lost for them, but maybe Maple, his experience working with Spica as well, can help them come back in this. Or maybe Huni can just beast mode something on a side wave. Definitely trying to make an effort here.
Pursuing Licorice, that's for sure. Pridestalker is here.
Turn.
Licorice going back in for it. Oh! And you get the ultimate coming through from the Senna again. Licorice, she slams. Maple is here, though. You have to be wary of that TSM Spica collapsing on the opposite side. Stixxay also making his way into the vicinity, but Licorice eventually loses his life.
It still brought all 5 members of TSM down to the bottom lane for 1-for-1. So now AblazeOlive gets to push an entire wave in mid. Olleh gets to push an entire wave in top. And that'll be a gold positive trade for Golden Guardians, taking 2 jungle camps on the way out as well.
Yeah, look how many little blue dots are on that mini-map pressing over here onto the top side. Olleh being able to usher that in. So 3,000 gold lead for Golden Guardians right now and drawing so much of that attention. Maple's response is to continue pushing on the bot side. They have now taken out all of the outer turrets for both of these teams.
Yeah, Maple is going to have a very impressive carry effort. And more importantly, TSM is going to have to scout this Baron pretty soon, because this is a really good timing for Golden Guardians to take it.
It's
low as well.
Down.
It's gone.
It is burning. It is gone, gone, gone. Do TSM try to follow up with a fight in return? Huni
I don't think so, but they're there.
So Spica, yeah, he's just chilling. He's getting targeted by Licorice over on the backside. Huni gets blasted on down in the center of it all. It didn't quite look like TSM wanted it despite staying in the vicinity.
That looked to me like TSM was just stunned. They didn't expect Golden Guardians to take Baron, and then when Golden Guardians had Baron, it's almost like they didn't process it, because there's no reason they should have stuck around in that situation. 5 full health Golden Guardian members, and Maple wasn't even close. They just stood there in a 4v5 and let Golden Guardians kill them. So now Golden Guardians really exploding this game. They get the Baron, they get a kill, and because it's a 4v5, they're getting multiple turrets right away.
They take down the mid tier 2, about to pressure over on this top side as well. Baron empowered minions helping to do that work. So Golden Guardians getting a decent amount of value off of this. At TSM, it felt like they were at the zoo and they were looking at the Baron exhibit.
Ooh.
Going in for Pridestalker, and now they're, let's break down the glass, let's go into it, let's get the charm onto Pridestalker, bring him into our own exhibit and take ownership, so they at least take one of them off the board for Golden Guardians.
Yeah, a very small consolation prize after losing a lot. It's something that I mentioned on the analyst test for Golden Guardians before the game, was that this might be somewhat of a make or break game for them. Because they showed such a strong trajectory in spring, have the same roster coming back into summer, aside from an AD carry change, and are trying to make a big play. And here it looked like Licorice is going to lose it, but they have Xin Zhao on the way, and most importantly, Stixxay is tracking this fight the entire time. Licorice tries to turn it around, and this whole sequence, pulling 5 TSM members towards the bottom lane in order for that nice little flash behind to work, is eventually what got them the Baron, because all 5 members of TSM moved down, they lost vision control, they lost the wave push, Golden Guardians get the Baron, and now they have a 5,500 gold lead.
Licorice is showing just how comfortable he is on this champion, not just in the movement, but knowing how long he can stay, how long he can prolong things before the rest of his team is able to join him. And it's proven to be an advantage, whether it's actually acquiring the kills or even just getting some of that attention. Now Golden Guardians can continue this push on through. Less than 30 seconds left on this Baron buff. So they're able to take another turret with some pressure from their team, even get the root onto Spica so that he can't step up.
Yeah, getting that turret is going to improve that Baron power play to about 4,000 gold, making it an above average Baron power play, but still possibly a lot of League left to play. 2 dragons away from an Ocean Soul, and still a long ways away from that next Baron. Positive signs for them, though. Another large gold lead at the 27-minute mark. The Achilles heel of this Golden Guardians team has been the inability to close from such a state. But with this, Drake will be on Soul Point at 27.5 minutes.
That timing worked out so well. Push as much as you can with that Red Bull Baron buff, and then immediately move to the Dragon as it's spawning afterwards. A lot of that map that you were able to acquire as Golden Guardians meant that once again, TSM could not make their way to the objective. So Soul Point good for Golden Guardians. And TSM, though, really you are looking for how can they just have one of these fights where if you get a Seraphine ult, if you go and you charm a few of them, if you take enough of them off the map, when the timers start to get longer, then you can try and even things out. It's just that gold lead has been ever so growing for Golden Guardians.
It has been, and it's been growing because TSM can't get a fight. They haven't been able to push a single side wave ahead of where Golden Guardians is, so they never have a timing where they can group as 5 people and actually force Golden Guardians to fight them on an objective. It's been a very good job of Licorice, AblazeOlive, and Stixxay, but it's actually Olleh playing a side lane a lot of the times on Mundo, just keeping the waves pushed and then having these timings to group. So the advantage of TSM's team, which would be like, hey, group up around Seraphine and Carmen, run at them, that opportunity hasn't presented itself for TSM.
Which is why most of the impact we have seen from Maple is just in clearing those waves before, as opposed to where you want this maple tree? I don't know. Where you want Maple to pop off on this Yasuo is what I was going for.
He's got an Infinity Edge now, so he definitely has enough damage to actually make an impact in a team fight. Just not being able to push waves is one thing. The second thing would be just like, look at who is the ones dying on the TSM side. It's 3 deaths for Huni, 1 death for Tactical. The majority of those were actually isolated for both of them. It is what has been a problem for TSM in their losses is the consistency of Huni and Tactical. So Team Com has a little bit to do with that, but it's what's given several opportunities for Golden Guardians as well.
And it's not just about the opportunities they're getting, it's Golden Guardians making sure that they push those advantages, something that sometimes before when their decision making isn't necessarily on the right page. Right now, it looks like they're all following what the game is telling them to do. Hey, you got this gold, let's just keep pressuring, let's just make sure that these waves are pushing up as much as possible. And it's led to them being in such a comfortable position here at 30 minutes.
Yeah, Golden Guardians also with now a Guardian Angel on Corki. He's waiting in base. Maybe for a control ward. He's got his package there, but I think he should actually delay his package until they actively want to play around an objective. He picks it up now. Okay, so they're actually going to try and use it for this Baron setup rather than waiting for the Ocean Soul. Respectable that they're trying to push the tempo a little bit. They feel like they have a big power spike right now, and they're just going to start it.
TSM, everyone except for Huni is in the vicinity. Huni does have teleport available, though. Some trading of that vision prior, but Golden Guardians have started this up.
Huni's almost mega, and he's got flank.
He's used. He's here on the opposite side of the rest of his team in a great position to beat as Golden Guardians go for it first, going across with the Valkyrie, a decent amount of damage for Golden Guardians onto TSM. Pridestalker into the back line, AblazeOlive coming back to life as well. Huni still separated, wanting to work up that rage a bit more. Mia also completely blocked off by Olleh, who can join the rest of the team. Spica in the center of too much gold, dipping onto his head and burning him down. Tactical, not long for this gold. Licorice with the blood in his eyes. The hunger is real. Gets the kill. And Golden Guardians take 4. They're looking to take 5. TSM cannot stop the onslaught that Golden Guardians have been bringing to their face time and time again.
What a call there by Golden Guardians to just go straight for the Baron, not dilly-dallying around waiting for the Ocean Soul. They just start the Baron, they wait until they see TSM, and then they just run at him. So Pridestalker flashes in as the package cuts across, and you can see TSM just not necessarily prepared for this level of aggression. I don't think Tactical actually used his empowered W, which would be a big miss. They needed that shield to try and counter that engage. Huni can't make it in onto the fight, and then TSM scatters and loses.
And it was a great starting position from Huni, but yes, that aggression happening so immediately from Golden Guardians, not enough time to be able to catch up to it. And Licorice, even here, I feel like this is kind of the epitome of what we've seen during this game. He just got that killer instinct. He really wants to take them down, and it's paid off well for Golden Guardians.
Look at the item gaps right here. 4-item Fiora, 4-item Corki, and half a Void Staff. Full 3 items on Xin Zhao. TSM is just so much weaker, but feel obligated to try and contest this Ocean Drake. Golden Guardians, I think they're going to try and find an angle to just run at them again.
GA still available for Licorice, still down for AblazeOlive. A good amount of poke, though, coming from Corki here. So even though TSM feel this pressure to try and step up to it, Golden Guardians, they're already in the vicinity. They're already starting it up. This is going to be Soul for them. Spica hopping on
Spica,
over
guys.
the wall. Can he go in for it? Pridestalker instead, slamming him on to Spica, who has to just hop right out. Huni is on the opposite side. Grand Challenge activated once again for Licorice. And Golden Guardians, they've zoned off the remainder of TSM. While Golden Guardians focus onto the Dragon, they take it down. That's Ocean Soul. So much more sustainability for them in these fights.
Looking very grim for TSM to try and win this one. They trade junglers, but losing the Ocean Soul. And also, like, Stixxay could just end this game in mid lane as Golden Guardians take this fight.
They're going for it. Huni has to hop away, and Maple as well gets burned as soon as he steps up to Golden Guardians. Some shielding for TSM, but the poke is still good. Olleh, he's on him. He's got that eye for him. Mia tries to get the lockdown onto Licorice, but Licorice keeping on to Huni. Tactical and Mia in retreat. Look at that damage onto Mia. Luckily has some little bit of speediness in you when you are Karma, but it's not enough. Stixxay says, all right, I'm still here. That was just a delayed fight from everybody else on my team, so I can clear into this base right now. Baron buff still in tow, takes down one of these turrets. 30 seconds before Maple or Huni can come up. Still another 15 on Mia. Numbers advantage for Golden Guardians. Even with Pridestalker being so far away, Golden Guardians, they're able to get it. Eyes on the Nexus, picking up a win here against TSM. Golden Guardians finding the victory.
A very solid game from Golden Guardians, pretty much from start to finish. They pull out the Mundo bottom lane, which ends up presenting some huge problems for the double enchanter bottom lane of TSM. So Golden Guardians has lane control pretty much the entire game. They translate that into forcing objectives at just the right time, and they never gave TSM a chance.
No, they made sure as soon as they started to get some semblance of a gold lead, they were continuing to expand that as much as possible through control of the turrets. Even AblazeOlive getting a lot of time to be able to accrue as much as he could in lane. And this is a good look for them, having that consistent game plan and following it all the way through.
And I think very important that they pick up this particular victory as well, because Golden Guardians is competing with this type of team for the slot in the LCS. I don't think many people are expecting Golden Guardians to break into the top 4, like the TLEG 100 Thieves C9 group, but they can be that 5th team, especially with the trajectory that they were on in spring. They had a very poor looking start to the season, but if they can put together more games like this, where they have a solid draft, they play the early mid game well, and then are actually able to close, that's the final piece for them if they want to become a top team.
Yeah, reminding everyone of why they got so excited about them towards the end of that spring, because it did feel like one of those things where people thought, oh, if they just had a little bit of a stronger start, maybe they would have been able to edge through a bit more, make it, and not have to do those tiebreakers. And then you come into week 1, they pick up the win against Cloud9, but the rest of the game still looking a little bit identityless. So you're thinking, where am I supposed to be focusing on with this team? And they brought that focus together here in this game.
Yeah, and we're going to see a lot of variance at the start of the season. So every game, we're kind of reevaluating the way we think of teams. Yesterday, TSM had a good game against Team Liquid. Today, a very poor game against Golden Guardians. Part of that could be kind of related to them not having very many tools to start fights, not necessarily having that much damage. But overall, a bad look for TSM and a happy game for Golden Guardians.
Yeah, was that enough, though, to break into the momentum they were gaining from the Team Liquid win, though? That's what you kind of got to ask yourself.
What have you done for me lately? That's how I feel like they're at right now. They beat Team Liquid, but now that they've lost this one, they're probably going to go into next week disappointed.
Yep, memory only goes so far into the past. For now, though, we are heading over to the stage